Welcome to Tony Martignetti Nonprofit Radio coverage of the Nonprofit Technology Conference 2015. We're in Austin, Texas at the Convention Center in Austin. My guest is Avi Kaplan. He's Director of Online Strategy for Rad Campaign. Avi, welcome.
Thank you, Tony.
Pleasure to have you. Your topic is wearable and mobile tech, what it means for nonprofits. There's a lot of new stuff out there.
There is, yes.
Just generally, now we have plenty of time together, so you don't have to pack it all into one answer, but generally, what does it mean for nonprofits?
I think there's a lot of exciting technologies emerging. A lot of organizations are trying to make sure that they're experimenting and taking advantage of all the technology available to them. And mobile's obviously a really great opportunity for engagement. But I think what it means is it's also it's become a bit of a buzzword to make. What are you doing on mobile?
Yeah.
So what I think it means is it's an opportunity to come up with some valuable ways to engage with your community, but also to be really thoughtful and making sure that you are investing your time and resources wisely in this area.
Yes, we need to avoid shiny object syndrome.
Yes.
Okay, because there are plenty of shiny objects to attract our attention. All right. What's interesting to you? What do you like to start talking about?
Sure. Well, I think one of the starting points that a lot of nonprofits today have when they think about mobile is related to their websites. Having a mobile website, going mobile responsive has become really very widespread tactic. If your site's not mobile responsive, you're not creating a great experience for a huge portion of your audience that's growing.
Do we have interrupt you? I interrupt a lot because I like to have conversations.
Yeah, absolutely.
How many people view? More likely to be viewing on a mobile device than a desktop or laptop?
Well, it kind of depends on your audience, but I think a good benchmark is somewhere between 20 and 30% for the average nonprofit. It depends on your sector.
Okay.
If your audience is more, advocacy, volunteer focused, I'd expect that to be higher. If your demographic is younger, more, if you're like DoSomething.org, I would assume upwards of 50% of their audience is mobile browsing audience.
I've had Aria Finger on the show, the COO of Do Something. She's been on a couple times, and also they have TMI, their spinoff for consulting.
Sure.
I had her on talking about that. I think she's CEO of that and COO of Do Something. That's probably at least 50% mobile.
Yeah.
Likely higher.
Yeah, for a larger legacy organization, associations, I would expect around 20%.
Yeah.
But it's easy to figure that out exactly for your website with Google Analytics or another analytics platform if you have that set up.
Okay, so we certainly should be paying attention to how many people are viewing our site through mobile. Now, it seems a lot of times in some organizations, people aren't even going back to the website that often. They're more engaging on the social channels. Yeah,
sure. I mean, that's being conscious of where your content's being engaged with, right? If it's all in the Facebook news feed or Instagram feeds or whatever platform piece you observe people, talking about your story. A lot of the social experience is on mobile as well. So being conscious of what networks folks are using to talk about, where that conversation's happening, it becomes a mobile conversation as well. I think a lot of people don't wind up at your homepage for mobile, but the landing pages that they get, I don't know what the stat is, but it's a email as well has shifted to mobile.
Oh, for sure.
In the office, a lot of people at their desks work with two devices because they just find email triage just so much easier on a tablet or a phone. I do that myself often. So then you wind up at a landing page and it's mobile.
I've never. No, this is a cool phrase. I never heard this phrase, email triage, because it's like. That suggests we got a medical emergency. We're in a crisis, and we're triaging all our messages.
Yeah,
I never heard that phrase. It's cool. All right.
Yeah, kind of just filtering through things, and I think a lot of the email platforms try to help people with that, and there's. On mobile people, there's some interesting applications to help people with that task. But
all right. Email triage,
yeah.
All right, so let's talk about if we do need to be mobile optimized, which is most likely, what should we be thinking about? How do we achieve this?
The idea of a responsive website is that in the design on the as you develop the site, you create breakpoints so that you can have your site be device aware and send out different code to different devices based on to create a good experience for that tailored to each device. But for nonprofits, a more cost-effective way of creating a good mobile experience is to create breakpoints based on the browser screen size. So, if
All right, break this down for us. Getting a little technical, but that's
Sure.
okay. I have jargon jail on nonprofit radio, so you're not going to get too
I'll
far.
try and stay out of jail.
Yes, or it'll be quick parole.
Sure. So, your if your website has a style sheet that the browser loads you to produce the design in the browser,
Okay.
the site will load with different layout of different elements on the page based on how wide your screen is. And so, if you're on a 9-inch tablet or a 11-inch tablet or a 15-inch screen, the pixel width will determine the layout of the elements on the page. But only one set of code will have to be downloaded. So you keep your site. It's a balance between the speed of your site loading and an effective way to create a diverse experience without having to think about exactly tailored for every device. So
Okay. All right. So size is critical. What else? What else should we be thinking about?
For responsive sites?
Yeah. Mobile responsive. Yeah.
Well, it does help to know what you want to have a sense of the. It helps to know a sense of the devices people are using.
You can find that in Google Analytics.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, if you're I don't know if you're working with we at Rad Campaign, we build a lot of responsive websites, and what we often do, there's a device lab actually near our office in Washington D.C., and you can go and test on specific device. Especially on the Android platform, there's so many different. If you have an iPhone, there's 6 different models, something like that, since the beginning of iPhone. But on Android, there's thousands. So you can check out those devices, load your site, and run testing to see exactly how it's going to appear. So if you have the patience for that and the resources if you're developing a site in-house, it's definitely worthwhile. Especially if I've had the experience of, your executive director has a unique device that nobody else in your audience has, and they,
Yes.
they complain, why doesn't this element load well for me? It looks goofy. And you hope to catch all those specific cases as you're doing your testing, but sometimes it really is something quirky with that device, or a plugin or an extension somebody has, and everybody's browsing experience, if you're on a tablet, on a desktop, it's unique based on your own quirky setup. So
let's talk about some of the wearable technology. That's part of your workshop also.
Sure.
What's exciting there, and where do you see for nonprofits?
Sure. I see this as kind of more on the horizon in terms of being a worthwhile investment. But wearables are everything from the fitness tracking devices like the Fitbit, and Microsoft has a fitness device coming out. There's a company called Misfit. The Apple Watch is coming out, I think, in April. So they're all kind of tracking these analytics of user activity. Your steps, your fitness activities.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting to me, I think, just because it's creating the consumer familiarity of wearing a device that gives you some feedback. The interesting piece for nonprofit communications and engagement is that where these devices start to have notifications built in that are people interact with them a little bit differently.
Oh, explain how that works, because this is new to a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah,
how do
absolutely.
these notifications? What do you mean?
Sure. So, I mean, just like you get a push notification, you have to pull out your phone usually.
Oh.
Like Fitbit, I think they have a couple of models now. There's a small enough screen, simple text, but you can just it'll pop up and you can read your text message right on the device on your
Okay.
wrist, which saves you from taking your phone out. And for nonprofits, and that's becoming more and more devices are becoming popular that have that feature, not just for text messaging, but any type of notification that can show up. Anything that Android has a platform called Android Wear or Android Watch, and the iPhone Apple Watch is going to be coming out, and that has its own platform. So a lot of mobile apps that people already have installed on their phones, Instagram or Yo or Snapchat or whatever it is, are going to be easily be able to be extended to have notifications going to people's wrists, which for nonprofits is something I could easily see somebody getting very excited about that, or leadership kind of jumping the gun and saying, oh well, we need to just send our donation form to everybody's wrist.
Yeah.
So it just highlights the importance to be very conscious of people's patience and attention, valuing the permission they're giving you to, if somebody does give you permission to ping their wrist, that's heavy responsibility not to abuse that, to respect your audience and be very thoughtful about that.
Yeah,
So.
and should you even go there if you don't have that permission, which most organizations probably do not. This is also new.
And just because you might technically grow a list, I think that's an awareness you have to have now with text communications. A lot of organizations that have been successful for advocacy with these SMS campaigns and text to give, you may have a growing list of phone numbers. They've given their permission, but maybe they don't recall, or they didn't really understand quite what permission they were giving you. So you really have to be very careful with that. You don't want to tax those relationships.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
So with wearables, I just see that as something to be aware of, that their notifications are becoming, in the next 5 to 10 years, it's an increasing space that people are conscious of day to day, and there is an opportunity to create a good, an interesting experience of engagement, but you have to be very thoughtful about it. So I just kind of think it's kind of on the horizon as something to be thinking about.
And respectful of the relationship and the permission you've been given.
Yeah.
Basically, is your point. Let's see. Do you sticking with the wearables? Do you see that having value in particular sectors? What are you thinking there?
Yeah, another kind of area.
What ideas are occurring to you?
Yeah, another area of wearables relates to kind of, everybody. Google came out with this thing called Glass, which everybody was, it kind of made everyone look like a robot.
I tried one of those.
Yeah, I didn't try it, but
there was a friend of mine in New York who was one of the selected beta testers, I guess.
Okay.
And so I had it on for 5 minutes or something.
Yeah.
It was cool. I talked to it.
Yeah.
I saw stuff. I saw stuff in the lenses.
Yeah.
But did it really go? Has it really taken off the way everybody thought it was going to?
I think the expectation was, people got excited. Oh, everybody's going to have a camera right in front of them, and be, another screen they're looking at. And you won't know that I don't know, teenagers watching.
Yeah.
Breaking Bad right in front of it without mom knowing, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the specialized experience for that premise is about augmented reality. Engaging with a task that's in front of you, with some helpful data or instruction, available that you may have, that it's more helpful to have literally overlaid on your vision for a specialized task. So.
It didn't really take off as much.
It didn't really take off
as all the early press was saying. It was revolutionary.
Right. So, I see that you asked about areas, fields where that could be helpful. I think in specialized fields, medical fields, in where you need unique expertise, maybe in the field. Microsoft has a something called HoloLens coming out, and
HoloLens,
like a hologram.
All right.
And the kind of early demos are just kind of whiz bang looking, but some of them are very practical. Like they had one demo where it was about teaching someone how to repair a light switch in their home, which doesn't seem like a huge deal, but I could imagine Habitat for Humanity coming up with HoloLens demos for you could maybe not need as many construction supervisors on site,
kind of doing
with
it
the volunteers,
doing it as you're watching it in your lens,
maybe
for how to spackle and tape
or tech support. Amazon has they have a set of tech, help support. I can't remember what it's called, but if you have an Amazon tablet or a Fire tablet, whatever they have, you can hit a button and then there'll be someone who pops up on the screen and. Okay. You say, I don't know how. Well, I tried to rent this movie, and what's going on? So I could imagine you could be doing some specialized task for your programmatic work, and call up somebody with you to help you troubleshoot what you're dealing with.
Exactly where you are.
Yeah.
Immediate help.
Yeah.
In your
I
lens.
could say, if you're we're here at the Nonprofit Technology Conference. Maybe you have an AV volunteer who's trying to set up a radio and streaming setup for your live event, and they're having trouble. They could, put on their HoloLens or whatever, and have somebody help them literally,
Yes.
configure. I don't have audio mixing
Right, but the person,
expertise, but
the person
somebody else
helping
does.
the person helping you could
Right.
see, and you can see them, and they can talk you through, and actually you can
Yeah.
do it as as you're on with them. What is iBeacon?
iBeacons are kind of it's a sensor. It's related to, it's kind of a more granular location sensor. So we have GPS, which are satellites that can, peg your location as a data point within, I think it's a few meters or something.
All right.
Maybe even like 20 meters. And we have there's like location tags where if you've been in like a store, the shoplifting tags to stop you from taking things out of the store, they know some radius of where that item is in the store.
Okay.
So iBeacons they work, I think, mostly off of the new Bluetooth technology, and they can triangulate you within a space, within a room. So if there were iBeacons in this room, and we kind of tapped into that network on our devices, they could know where this device is within inches. So what's interesting about that to me is the opportunity to create an experience, a curated experience for a space. So if you're the most immediate application I see now is for museums, where it's very important where museum goers are in the space.
As to what content they're
Right.
going to receive.
What they're what they're going to receive. If you're sharing as they move through the experience, what added value you can perspective on the history of the pieces that they're seeing, or scientific information on the exhibit they're looking at based on where they are, but also maybe the path they went through.
Yes, how people interact with your content.
Right. Now they're gone. You could, it takes a lot of resources maybe to do this, but you could if you could peg that person's path through your space, you could say, everybody who went through the butterfly exhibit, without them, checking off a box or raising their hand or any, send them all an email about our butterfly research, or tailor this donation request to that group, which you can only do if they've, you have the space pegged with iBeacons to be able to know where they are, and you have some requests maybe at the beginning of the, at the entranceway, let us know. Let us have these permissions.
Yeah, may we track your
right
your time through our collection.
Right.
Okay.
But you're going to start to see these around. I mean, it's a little bit it goes back again to that same permission thing, but also that lack of consumer awareness about the data that is around there for us already. It's a little spooky sometimes, but if you've ever done like Sun Pass or Metro Pass on your car.
Oh, sure.
There's that people have a subscription, to pay the tolls quickly.
Right.
That is actually that's not the only place where that gets picked up. When you go in, that little device is always pinging out it's saying, here I am.
Yeah.
With a unique. It's the same thing that's on like.
Well, isn't that how we find out what traffic is like ahead on our GPS?
Yeah.
And there are implications for law enforcement using it for potentially determining speeding.
All kinds of things, yeah.
But then also traffic volume.
Right.
Yeah.
So but the permission you gave in one location with iBeacons, right?
Yeah.
That could be carried in other locations, right? So if there's a reciprocal relationship between the museum and other places in the city, then they know, you could segment to the people on your list who are frequent restaurant goers at the Stone Crab restaurant, whatever,
right.
And then you get into.
But you've got to know that permission was granted. I mean, you've got to know that you're granting that.
Maybe
that
not.
Consent
I think
when you go through the butterfly exhibit. I mean, doesn't that need to be disclosed?
Well, I think that
we're going to disclose to our partners. We're going to share with certain partners, and you'll receive offers related
the platforms that are being set up for the way that it gets implemented. It's a tricky thing because the museum, the point of permission may not even know the cascading effects of that permission.
But that's very risky. Okay, then they're not.
So it's tricky.
I don't think they're protecting their constituents adequately if they don't even know.
You have to be thoughtful about it.
Where it's going to go. Yeah. All right. We have just about a minute left. What do you want to wrap up with? Yeah. Time flies on nonprofit radio.
It sure does.
What's wearable and mobile and what nonprofits should be thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, I think my big takeaway with this is, there are some interesting technologies out there, but you should be very thoughtful. Make sure that what you're investing your time and resources are in isn't shiny object like you mentioned. Is going to have a real specific value add for your audience. Be thoughtful about the comfort level of your audience and community engaging with that technology, and the maturity of the platform. There's a few different iBeacons. There's a few different implementations of that. So you want to be thoughtful about which one you choose. Make sure it's one that you can support over the long term, as you have to continue to maintain that technology. And be thoughtful about the hidden costs. It's not just the spend to implement and set up whatever you've started.
Right.
You have to support it. Maybe you have to train your staff. You have an ongoing communications. Maybe you're likely going to need to iterate and continue to develop it. So being thoughtful about those hidden costs and how you're going to measure those and evaluate your success.
Avi Kaplan. He is Director of Online Strategy for Rad Campaign. Avi, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, Tony.
It's my pleasure. This is Tony Martignetti, nonprofit radio coverage of Nonprofit Technology Conference, NTC 2015. Thanks very much for being with us.